All right, good morning. Great to see y'all. It's an early start, so I'll try to be loud and excitable, so keep everybody awake, although most people have their coffee. That's a good thing. Thank you, Cameron. Again, Colonel Brad Barnhart. I'm the Chief of the Mission Partner Engagement Office at DISA. So the whole intent of having a Mission Partner Engagement Office is to have a single belly button for the agency that anyone, whether it be a military department, an agency, a COCOM, industry partner, anyone else can come to DISA to my office and we'll figure out how to get you an answer. We don't own any projects. We don't do any policy. We simply are the go-between. We're your advocate inside the agency to make sure that you can get the answer that you need and hopefully fulfill your requirement. Now, right up front, this presentation is geared for our mission partners, and I define a mission partner as anyone that can provide funding to DISA to give them a service. So it's usually MILDEPs, it's going to be the COCOMs and the agencies. But if you're an industry partner, a vendor, please join us. Hopefully I will answer a couple of your questions, and in the end, I'm willing to take all questions and tell you what I know. That's the great part about my job is we'll go through the org structure. I'm kind of on the outside. I'm supposed to be the even broker so that I can tell the DISA leadership what's working and what isn't and give them the signal demand both from the mission partner world as well as the industry world and let General Lynn know what's going on. So that's kind of the big picture before we get started. First and foremost, the obligatory organizational chart. So y'all can see where we work. If you were here yesterday, they did kind of mention the left and the right. There was a question about the left and the right. So this slide actually shows it pretty good. If you look way on the left, the green box there, that's the Resource Management Center. They do all of the financials for DISA. They figure out all the rate books that you see go out. They handle all the DISA Working Capital Fund issues and pretty much take care of about $11 billion a year. You look at the orange and the blue box, that's where we get back to the left and the right. The blue box is the left. That's business and development. Mr. Alfred Rivera, he'll be up on the stage this afternoon, but that's his team right there that does everything associated with developing the services that DISA provides to all the mission partners around the world. The right box, the Center for Operations in yellow there, that's what we call the right, and they do all the operations and sustainment. From computing to networking to SATCOM to circuits, whatever services DISA provides, they make sure they're up and running every day. So the big red circle, that's where my office is. So technically, I'm in the Business and Development office, and this is a little more fidelity here. So under Mr. Rivera, he's a 2-star SCS. This is his team. The 3 orange boxes on the right, those are the main services directorate. So we have a cyber operations directorate, or cyber development, I guess. That's Mr. John Hickey. He was up on the stage yesterday. He's the team that develops all the cyber tools that we can provide to the mission partners, and that a lot of the tools are used by jfhq-dodin to actually operate and defend the government infrastructure every day. The services development directorate, that's where most of your PMs are at. Those are the folks that are taking the customer signal demand and turning it into a service that we can use at enterprise level. That's led by Mr. Terry Carpenter right now. He's a GS-15, but I expect him to move up the chain here shortly. And then the far right box there is the Joint Interoperability Test Command. That's JITC down at Fort Huachuca. That's the team that does the integration piece to make sure all our services and capabilities integrate with what our mission partner needs done. So the 4 green boxes on the left, those are the various offices, and I've circled in red our office right there. So we do have a little bit of autonomy, I like to say, to give Mr. Rivera and the director honest feedback for what the folks in the different departments need. So here's a lot of words, but big picture, this is what our office is tasked to do by the director. And right up front is the most important piece, provide a single entry point to DISA. And it says for all mission partners, because that is my primary focus, is to work with the various federal agencies and the MILDEPs that need support from DISA. But again, anyone that has an inquiry or a question can come through us. And if you haven't been around DISA too long, you'll soon find out they tend to reorganize often every year, if not more often. And so that's another reason that we tried to develop the single entry point into DISA, being our office, so you don't have to figure out who to track down. That being said, as I share with my team, it's only about a team of 50 people. We'll look at that layout in a second. As I share with my team, those relationships are invaluable. So if you already work with someone inside of DISA, you're not obligated to come through us. Please contact the people you have that relationship with, those people you trust, to make sure that they understand what your requirement or your need is as a mission partner. And it can work the same way for the industry partner too when you want clarification what DISA is trying to do. As they look at the functions, the first step up there is probably what we spend the most time performing, and that's the focus on the outreach to the mission partners at the most senior levels. We try to work with the CIOs primarily, Chief Information Officers or their deputies at the agency and the MILDEP level. We try to have at least a quarterly engagement at that level. So when I say mission partners, the number varies depending on what day of the week it is, but right now we have about between 40 and 50 federal agencies, and this goes outside the Department of Defense because we are doing a fair amount of work with the Department of Homeland Security, as well as some of the Treasury folks. We're working with folks on Capitol Hill when it comes to Capitol Police and some other requirements on that part of the world. So big picture, yes, our focus is Department of Defense. That's what we're tasked to support, but we have several mission partners outside of the DoD that are coming to us for services as well. Primarily, though, we work with the CIOs for the 3 military services as well as the large defense agencies, and then obviously with the COCOM J6s. We are a combat support agency for the IT world. The first item up there, I'll talk a little bit more in a minute. It's building mission partner portfolio services. One of the things, I've only been in the job a year. Again, most of my team has been doing this for several years. If you've worked with the CMEs in the past, CMEs, that's who our team is built from on the computing side. They are the experts. I just try to stay out of their way. But one of the things that we recognized is when you go and sit down with the CIO, we want to explain to that mission partner all the services that DISA is providing to them, whether it be Air Force, Army, Navy, DLA, DHA, DFAS, whoever the case may be. We have a really good arms around the computing side of the house. We have our arms around the networking side of the house. Like I can usually provide a list of services to that CIO, but we didn't have a good way to present it because the way DISA is set up as an organization is they put the expertise together in the area that provides the best advantage to our mission partners, which makes sense. You want to put the experts together, and so the computing guys, they know their piece really well, the network really well. But when you try to bring all that together, we found that's a bit of a challenge. So what we're trying to do is set up what we call portfolios for the mission partners that will lay out all the services and the costs associated with all the services that DISA provides to any mission partner so that CIO has the full picture of what they receive from DISA. One of the things that I learned being in the military 20 plus years before I actually started working for DISA, I had no idea the scope and breadth of the responsibilities of this agency. There's only about 8,000 civilian employees, a few hundred military stationed around the world. But it is a 24/7 job, primary focus on the COCOMs to make sure the job gets done, but also supporting services around the world. So with that smaller staff, in reality, they do get a lot accomplished, and a lot of times the mission partner doesn't understand that you're also buying circuits, that the mission partner is also contracting through the DISA Information Technology Contracting Office, buying services from them. There's a lot of different avenues that just don't get as much attention, especially on the stage or in the press, as some of the less sexy ideas. So that's what we want to do there, and I'll talk a little bit more about that one. And then the other piece, the third bullet down there, conduit for senior mission partner feedback. That's the other avenue. I've noticed in my job, most of the mission partners that are out here, your general officers, your CIOs, they're not bashful about calling General Lynn and telling them what they need, which is a good thing. That helps my job. But our office as well takes all the feedback. We try to collect the common signal that's coming from the mission partners. So if I hear something from the Air Force and the Army, I'm going to combine those things, have more discussions with those entities, and then make sure that's funneled up to the boss. The second major bullet there, the first contact for all requirements, inquiries, and issues. That goes back to being the single entry point. Specifically on the requirements piece, though, that's what our office does primarily, and honestly, I believe does best. So any mission partner out there, that if you see something that DISA has, whether in our list of services catalog that explains everything that DISA provides, you see a write-up in one of the publications, come to our office. We'll help you get the request filled out, help you define that requirement, and then let you know what the cost is and what the timeline is for implementation. So that's primarily where we do most of our business, is helping the mission partners, helping you define your requirement and align it with services that DISA provides. No questions on that one. All right. More words on this page. If you've worked with DISA, you're familiar with letter estimates. That's how DISA essentially does an invoice. So once the requirement is defined, we throw it over to the implementation team, and they look at how it could be engineered. Then we throw it over to the costing team that we talked about, that far block on the left, the Resource Management Center, and they determine the cost associated with that particular requirement, and then we'll give you a written estimate, is what it boils down to, that you can accept or you don't have to accept. But we don't start any work on the requirement until that point. Once the mission partner signs on the dotted line and says, yep, I want DISA to fulfill this requirement for me, here's my money, here's my MIPR, and then DISA will move forward. Our team also tracks all the milestones. So once, we just don't walk away. So once you sign on that dotted line and say, yeah, here's my money, let's go, we do turn it over to the implementation team, which is actually on the right side, as we mentioned earlier. But our team will always be your conduit to find a status or the current capability that's in place. You can check with us. We'll give you feedback on where things are going and what the timeline looks like. For anybody that's been to DISA.mil, that's where our services catalog is located. So our team is responsible for keeping the content accurate on that page. So you should be able to go out to DISA.mil any day of the week and see the latest information. And I know someone's going to out here and question me and go, hey, I heard you awarded Mil Cloud 2.0 last Friday. Where's it at on the services catalog? Okay, I'll take a breath on that one. We will keep the information accurate as we are legally capable at that point. So obviously, new contracts are going to take a bit to get the service identified and clarified, so we have a good description, we have rates, and we have POCs out there. That's our goal, and we won't put it out there until we know DISA is ready to take your requirement. So you will see some, I would call it a delay, honestly, from the time an award is announced or a capability is announced to the point where it is actually available on the services catalog for you all to sign up for. Because DISA, as an entity, wants to make sure that we're not putting it out there for public consumption until we can actually provide it. So you also hear, that's where the whole pilot discussion comes in, where a lot of times people will say, hey, I want to be part of the pilot. I want to be part of the pilot. Absolutely. We're always looking for mission partners to be engaged with the pilot, but we got to keep that audience a little bit smaller. Otherwise, we've created an enterprise service before we're ready, and then you as a mission partner rightfully would come back and say, hey, you're not providing me a service, it doesn't work, I signed up for this, I'm paying for it. Well, okay, that's why we do the pilots, to make sure we've got all the kinks worked out in the process, to make sure you get what you want and what you're looking for. Bubbling down a little bit, the DISA Requirement Management Process. So a lot of the mission partners are like, okay, I fill out my requirements form, I give you some money, and then it goes into a black hole. That's not good. And I was on that side of the fence a couple of years ago, and as Cameron mentioned, I worked down at Air Force District, Washington. So what we've done is we've actually documented how requirements are fulfilled. It's a rather high-level document. It's got a good flow chart, though, that shows the process from the beginning instance when the requirement is defined, and our team helps a mission partner with that, through the implementation phase, into the sustainment phase, and then eventually sunset. And who should be involved in the communication along those lines, and what parts of the DISA agency are actually involved as well. So that's our goal, is to help mission partners be aware of how the process works and what to expect. When you come to the table with a requirement, we want to make sure that we articulate clearly what it's going to take to fulfill your requirement. So our team has that document and can share information on that as you need as well. And then finally, I mentioned reorg before, correct? Reorganizations. The last bullet there aligns with a separate entity within DISA was kind of working on their own, doing what I call international affairs. So as the day-to-day requirement, anybody that works at a COCOM, you're going to work with a coalition partner. We just don't fight wars alone anymore. So our team has always been handling the coalition requirements. But there's also foreign military sales activities that DISA does a very large-scale amount every year. So that team now that does the international affairs or the foreign military sales is now aligned under the Mission Partner Engagement Office. So especially if you're with a COCOM or with a service and you know an international partner that is looking to get a service from DISA, definitely contact us. We'll align you with Dr. Stephanie McMillan and her team. It's a very small team. Will help that international partner fulfill their requirement as well. Her team is on the road a ton. I was getting emails this morning. She's in Japan. She's got someone else in Singapore and someone in Hawaii. So they go out and see the international partners very well to get the job done there. All right, I just want to highlight the portfolios because this is something new. This is something DISA has never done before. So we're doing the crawl, walk, run approach to this effort for the different mission partners. So if you're with a mission partner, the only one that's received this so far is DFAS. I doubt we have any DFAS folks here, but we are going to work our way through the agencies and the MILDEPs. And again, this is focused at the CIO level. So right now, given the resources we have, we're trying to focus on the big picture, and then we'll break it down into subcomponents in the military departments down as we go down the road. But what the goal here is exactly what it says at the top. We want to reflect all services that a mission partner is purchasing from DISA so they can make the good, correct, strategic decisions for their military department. You all have limited funds, so we want to make sure they're all being utilized correctly. Two main areas we focus on: sustainment and maintenance, what you already buy from DISA. That's pretty straightforward. As I mentioned before, we talk about the computing piece. We've got a pretty good arms around that one. We can explain that one in detail. We're currently working on what this mission partner is purchasing for network services, for circuits, contracting, testing, etc. So anything you receive from DISA. And then the financial rates are included in there as well. We want to make sure we're explaining to the CIO where you're at in the burn rate for each fiscal year. Are you going to have money left over in the year? Everybody loves to have that, but you want to know that ahead of time. You don't want to find out the 1st of September that you've got several $1 million to spend before 30 September. So that's another goal of these portfolios, to make sure that we can present at any one time that you're on schedule to spend the money that you've obligated for this particular service. And then we jump down to the new business piece. And that's where we talk about the new requirements that are still either in the definition phase or they've even transitioned into the initial implementation phase. We want to make sure that the CIOs agree with where DISA is aligning resources. So we have the top 10 priorities, and we look for our mission partner to define those for us. We're going to lay out exactly what we foresee IOC and FOC for those projects. And if the CIO says, hey, no, I need this one done sooner, then that means realigning resources, which is going to have an effect on other projects that are on that top 10 list. But that's part of the discussion, and that's what my team is there to do, is to clearly understand exactly what you as a mission partner expect from DISA and make sure that we're aligning resources correctly. The second from bottom there, that's an interesting one that we're trying to understand the best way to articulate that, and I'd love some help on this one. But what we realize is DISA, what I've heard from the CIOs, is fantastic at reacting to requirements. How do we get to be proactive? How do we anticipate your needs and align the development of our services to meet the timelines of when you actually want to implement? Because most mission partners will say, and I said this too before I got the agency, too costly, too slow. All right, how do we fix that? Cost piece has a lot to do with DoD CIO and policy. I can't affect that so much. But when it comes to being too slow, okay, how do we figure out how to anticipate what you're going to need? And that's where we need a mission partner's help. So what we're asking the CIOs is, can we have a copy of your IT roadmap? Where do you expect to be in 2 to 3 to 4 years? And then we can bring that signal demand back to the agency, look at all the other mission partners that provide the same signal demand, and start developing our enterprise services so they're ready in 2 or 3 years, and you can align with your roadmap and keep things rolling. So we're not in crisis mode all the time, because those are challenging days, that's for sure. So that's the initiative with portfolios. Again, it's a new service or capability that our team is beginning to roll out, and we'll eventually make our way around the MILDEPs and the agencies, hopefully this calendar year. The second obligatory org chart. So this is how we're aligned in the Mission Partner Engagement Office. The chief and then Ted Lewis, I saw him here. Where's he sitting at? There's Ted Lewis is my deputy. He's been doing this over 20 years, so he really knows what he's doing, and taking care of me most days. And then we divide into 4 branches. We are completely opposite in alignment from the way the rest of DISA is aligned. DISA as a whole is aligned by their service, which makes sense. You want your expertise aligned together. We are aligned by mission partner so that we keep the relationships and build the trust with the mission partner, so you're not working with somebody different every day. The goal is to keep you aligned with the same person when you have new requirements come in or when you have questions or concerns about the service that you're receiving. So on the far left is BDM1. Mr. Joe Brinker is sitting over there acting in the role right now. His team is responsible for all of the agencies. So if you don't wear a uniform, he's going to take care of you. And if you wear the Coast Guard uniform, he's going to take care of you because they're aligned under DHS and it's a funding issue. But big picture, that's how we have tried to line it up. So Joe Brinker has the non-uniformed service partners, and then BDM2, Denise Gentili couldn't be here today, but she's responsible for all the uniformed partners. So we have both the MILDEPs as well as the COCOMs laid out there. BDM3, I mentioned before, International Affairs, Dr. McMillan. And then BDM4 is Bob Plummer. I saw him floating around here somewhere. I think he's back at our booth underneath the big DISA sign. His team does all the stuff in the background, all the stuff that a lot of times we never see out there interacting with a partner, but he takes care of it in the background, including the services catalog, that requirements management process we discussed earlier. So his team takes care of all that piece. And then up in the light blue box in the upper right-hand corner, that's another new initiative based on feedback from our mission partners. So what we've done is realized the best way we can fulfill your requirements is to be on site with you as much as possible, be in your hallway discussions, be in your staff meetings. So what we've done is we've aligned liaison officers that sit on site with those particular mission partners at the CIO level. The Army, Navy, and Air Force all have liaison officers that work with primarily with their program element offices, the PEOs, but then also with our major agencies, DFAS, DLA, and then we don't have up there, but we're also working on DOD-CIO, having a liaison officer that works directly with those offices so that we can communicate with our mission partners more clearly and meet your needs, plain and simple. Real quick, I want to talk about how a high-level requirement flows. Are there any COCOMs represented in here today? I don't think so. So disregard the far left column there, the 6285 process. That's solely for the COCOMs, working their requirements through the joint staff, primarily to get funding. So as a mission partner in the upper left, what you're going to do is you're going to come to MPEO with a need. You may not even have that need defined. You may not even know what you really want, and that happens more times than not. But you're going to come to our team. We're going to help define whatever your requirement is, and then we're going to look at the services catalog. So if you drop down the short arrow, fulfill with an existing service, that's our goal. If we can take your requirement and it fits nicely into a box that already exists, you're going to be very successful, and it's going to cost you a lot less. So that's our first step, is to try to make sure we can align it with an existing service, and then we get it right into the fulfillment process, and you're going to get it in a very timely manner. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of mission partners because we do what a lot of folks in the rest of the world just don't do. We go out to different battlefields. We fight different capabilities with the bad guys. So often it's going to fall down in that big yellow bubble, which is the requirements process. So if you have a need that does not fit nicely into a box that already exists, we're going to go in the requirements process. And so we're going to look at that requirement. We're going to determine, is that something completely brand new for DISA to look at, or is that something where we just need to tweak an existing service? And again, you're going to look at the business case for either one of those. Is there a business case to make it an enterprise service, which is DISA's responsibility to fulfill all Department of Defense IT needs, or is it simply a one-off that, unfortunately, you're probably going to have to go through a commercial provider for? So we have a team, the Requirements Analysis Office, that does the business case. Then they present that to the leadership. General Lynn, Mr. Monterano, General Zabel, the whole team is involved. And then if they agree, yes, that is a business case that DISA wants to take on, they're going to go into the acquisition process, and then it flows up into one of the standard services that we provide. I will tell you, and actually the next slide helps, the next slide doesn't present that. So I will tell you, going that route, you'll get what you need, but it really stretches the timeline. And it obviously is going to stretch the cost because we have to dedicate new resources to that. So it's definitely something DISA does a fair amount, more than I'd like to see personally as a taxpayer, but at the same token, it really gets the warfighter what they truly need. So our goal, though, as a mission partner, when we come in the door, we really want to get you into one of those existing services. That's best for you, and that's best for the agency. So don't be offended. We recognize every mission partner has a unique need, but that's what our goal is. For mission partners out there, Mission Partner Portal. If you're not using this today or your team's not using it, please stop by and we'll get you the details on this. There is a plethora of great information on this one site, and you can go and pull that information 24/7 whenever you need it. Rather than giving us a call, sending us an email, waiting for a response, if you go out to the Mission Partner Portal, once you get signed up, you're going to see everything associated with your particular entity, whether you're Air Force, Army, Navy, or one of the agencies, one of the COCOMs, and you can go out and pull the current status of all your projects that you have with DISA. So even before you've got to sustainment or production, if it's in the process of being developed, it pulls the current status right out of DISA's big project tracker. So you know to that day exactly where your project's at. It has all the rate books are out there. If you want to know what the cost is on various services, those are all located out there. It's got all the utilization and in the different DISA data centers. You can see what your production environment, are you really using everything you're buying? If you bought, certain number of operating environments, are you getting full utilization? Do you need to draw back on your requirement? So there's a ton of great information. All you have to do is register out there, and then we'll open it up for you to get to. You do have to have a CAC, which most of our mission partners don't have a problem with. You can also order services. So if you recognize, it's 3 in the morning and you're working in a different part of the world, you can go out there and the forms are all located, so you can sign up and request a new service that you just saw in the DISA catalog. You don't have to call us or send us an email. It can be very efficient if you know what you need. I've talked about the services catalog several times. This is on DISA.mil. It breaks it down by the different categories of services that DISA provides. And again, it's got a good description. It's got the rates. It has any unique requirements that the mission partner may need to provide up front to have that service provided to them. And we keep it on DISA.mil. I'll be honest, we recognize this really isn't a good presentation. Sometimes it's tough to find the stuff, and it's not consistent across the board. We're working on that. We have an effort in place by in the calendar year to revamp this site to make it a little more usable and easier to find your service. So that's coming, and hopefully next year at this presentation, I'll give you the full scoop on that one. Many of you have used DISA Storefront. If you haven't used that one, that's primarily for the networking side of the house, requesting circuits, things like that. Again, if you used it a few times, it's not too bad. Your first time out there, it's a challenge to use this particular capability. You can always come to us directly, and we'll help you get through the process and get the request ordered. But this is another avenue where mission partners can go out there, get the service themselves, so you don't have to come to us for it. And we also have an effort underway to revamp this website as well, to make ordering services a little easier and to expand beyond what this capability currently is, which is primarily networking, give you the capability to order anything that DISA provides. All right, and always the most important slide. So I think on everybody's seat, you had a little flyer that has this information as well. Again, we are aligned by mission partner. So as you look on the left and the right, those are where the phone numbers for your specific mission partners, but always feel free to call the ones in the middle. That's my number right up top. We'll always answer the phone. We'll get back to you as soon as we can with the information that you're looking for. Even Colonel Favorito over there will agree with that one. And that's supposed to be where you can ask questions, but that didn't pop out real well. But big picture, those are the answers I provide you. Thanks, Rocky. Booth 443. So you all have seen the big DISA circular over there. We have, among the other DISA services provided in the carpet area over there, we have a table for the Mission Partner Engagement Office. So any of this that didn't make sense or 2 hours from now pops in your head and go, man, I wish I would ask a question. We are over there throughout the entire conference, all day today and tomorrow. You can just stop in there, ask anyone where the Mission Partner Engagement table is at, and we're more than happy to answer any questions, fill out a form for you to get you started and take a service, whatever your concerns are. And I think that is my last slide. So I did all the talking. I am open to questions across the board. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, so when I say maintain, that's a good question. So as I mentioned before, the services catalog is our responsibility, I'll put it that way. What we do is every quarter, we contact every program manager in DISA and say, okay, what changes have you made to your service or program that you provide to a mission partner? And then we collect all those inputs, and we update the content on the services catalog pages. I see where you're coming. That's a good point. So for the industry partners that are working with the different PMs, if you go out to this DISA catalog and you say, wait a second, that does not accurately convey the capability that this service provides, I would love to know that. I want to make sure that I accurately represent the services to our mission partners that need them. So as an industry partner, please ping your PMs. We try to do it quarterly. Since we just gained ownership of this, we've not really got a good battle rhythm set up yet. But ping your PM, ask them to contact me, Brad Barnhart, and I will make sure they get with our person that does the updates directly to make sure that stays consistent and accurate. Those are the two words that I've been using with my team, and they're really working hard to make sure that's so. You know, everybody's busy inside the agency, you're right, and that's not something they always think about is the advertising piece, but that's critical to actually the service getting used. So thank you, good question. Anything else? Can I say this? Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Too much behind me here.
Can you just talk a little bit about your interaction with the field commanders? How does the mission partner office interact with the different field commanders?
Good questions.
Where are the handoffs at?
So the interaction between my office in the agency headquarters and the field offices or field commands co-located with all the COCOMs. So all 9 COCOMs, and I can say 10 because the joint staff counts as a COCOM, and they actually have a field office too. That's a maturing relationship, I'll put it that way. So as I said up front in the very first slide, the primary responsibility is for my office to be the single point of entry into the agency for all questions, requirements, and concerns. Then why do we have people co-located at the COCOMs? So I make an effort, our office gets out and visits with every field office and at the COCOM, the J6 usually, at least once a year to understand what their needs are so that I can bring the signal demand back to the agency as we develop enterprise services. But I do look at the field offices, and I've talked to all the commanders, that they are at the tip of the spear. So from an agency perspective, the field offices and field commands have the first contact with the mission partner. Simply because they're in the staff meetings, they're in the hallway discussions, they're going to have to answer the mail. The J6 isn't going to call me. They're going to call that field command that's right there co-located in his building. So essentially I look at the field offices as an extension of the mission partner engagement office. They reach back to us if they need help or if they have concerns that we can fulfill with inside the agency. That being said, I'm actually somewhat a stepchild to Mr. Bennett, the right side. The right side owns all the field offices from the operational perspective, and I'm invited to their discussions. Like after this event's over on Friday, all the field commanders are sitting in a room all day long, and I'm part of that discussion as well, so I know what they're being told, and to make sure they align with what my team is expressing to the executive agents, all the MILDEPs that support the COCOMs. That make sense?
And also as a former field office member, I can tell you DISA was the cloud before the cloud was cool. So even in the field office, we don't always know where to call to get things going within DISA. So that office is like really cool because now even for the field office, we have a single point of entry in the DISA where Brad now can work, internal, and we don't have to worry. We just kind of send them, hey, we got a real problem here at the COCOM. Can you help us out? And then they're working it behind the scenes. So
good. Thanks, Rocky. Anything else? How many, can I ask a question, how many are industry here? That's what I thought. There's not many people wearing uniform around here. That's good. So from an industry side of the house, since we do have a couple minutes, if you didn't want to run off to see something else, from an industry side of the house, our team is more than happy to answer your questions. So take the flyers, call us if you got questions. We have what we call a corporate connections office inside of DISA, not part of my organization, but the leader of that organization sits literally across the hall from me, and they want to talk to industry partners. They want to get you inside the building to do demos, hear what different capabilities are coming down the line. As General Lynn talked yesterday, innovation is what it's all about. We got to, there's a lot of discussion about what our budget's going to be in the DoD. But regardless, as we go down the road, we continually need to look to be able to do things more efficiently and at less cost. So innovation is a big piece of that. So the Corporate Connections Office is your conduit into the agency to get the audience you need, to get the presentations set up and the demonstrations. I don't have their information as part of this briefing because normally this is on the road with just mission partners. But if you stop by the DISA booth over there, we'll get you in connection with their office and make sure you have their contact information. Because that's the way only way we can move forward is if we come up with the good ideas that industry provides. And Joe Brinker is going to bail me out here.
So, in addition to that, at the Mission Partner Engagement table, underneath the big purple DISA sign, there's business cards that have the link to the Corporate Connections website where you can go in and request an audience via a technical exchange meeting. So go ahead and please, if you're interested in doing so, go to the Mission Partner Engagement Desk. And in fact, I think Corporate Connections Chief Franklin James is actually over there today as well. So you can do one better than going to the website. You can talk directly to the man himself.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. So Joe and Ted and I will be here through the rest of the hour that we've got the panel reserved. I will say, if you're interested in a big picture of what the DISA services that we provide, if you're not familiar with the agency, at 10:45 in here, our experts, Andy and Sharon, they go on the road, they do 16 different classes a year, but they go out to all the mission partner locations, and it's a 3-day course where they cover the organization, all the services that DISA provides, the relationships with the different mission partners, primarily to new members to different organizations. But they're going to condense kind of a quick 1-hour overview of what that course contains. So if you want to come back here, we're going to do it at both 10:45 and then again at 1:30, because there's a lot of other theaters that have good stuff going on. If you want to stop by either one of those, it's a great hour-long overview of exactly what the agency does and all the different facets. Because I've done this a long time, and I didn't realize till I got to DISA how much WACA plays with the different senior leadership communications, that we do a lot of SATCOM activities within DISA agency. So there's a lot of different facets that don't get a lot of attention because they're smaller or for the more classified missions, and they'll talk about the agency as a whole. So again, that's at 10:45 right here, and then again at 1:30. It's the same presentation, both hour, so if you can fit in, it is a good overview of the agency. So if there's no more questions, we'll be up here. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.